You're listening to Veeam Partner Perspectives with Eric Doherty. Welcome to the Veeam Partner Perspectives podcast. I'm Eric Doherty. My guest today is Mark Brunstad, Global Customer Success and Enablement Director with Veeam. More specifically, he's the mind behind the direction for partner education. You've been part of some great education teams at other organizations, Mark. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. Prior to Veeam, I spent a little over 9 years at VMware. I started out as a technical instructor there, teaching, the VCP program. Essentially, is when it started about that same time, about 2005. When I started, was also a course designer. I built curricula, programs for technical pre and post sales people, also for sales. And then I ended up my career at VMware running the VCDX program, which is the VMware's top tier certification. Essentially, what we were doing there was training and certifying architects for the G2000. People could go in and do very large multi-site infrastructure designs successfully for the largest customers that VMware had. After VMware, I went to Nutanix, where I was in a similar role. I started out really bootstrapping the education program there, the Nutanix Certified Professional Program, and ended up running the NPX program there, which was also another top-level architect training and certification program. So that's what I was doing prior to coming to Veeam. I came to Veeam a little over a year ago, and now I've just jumped into the education role with both feet. And we're looking to build programs out that essentially, the goal really, as far as partners are concerned especially, is to build enablement programs that include training and assessments and certifications that give partners tools they need as practitioners with a Veeam practice, the tools they need to make more money, right, and take on bigger projects, larger with larger customers. And the value of those programs or programs that we're looking to design is that we're going to be giving tools that help you build your Veeam practice and be successful with the Veeam products with the largest customers.
Yeah, that's exciting. So I think, and we've already seen it a little bit over the past year, a real evolution coming in our education program and what the vision is. So 2023 was really kind of a transition year for education at Veeam. Can you give us a little background of where we were at the beginning of the year and what we did to get to where we are today?
Sure. I mean, when I first landed at Veeam, one of the things that I did right out of the gate was to have a look at how the assessments, especially the certification programs, were actually being built and delivered. And one of the things that you need to do if you're going to have these programs be industry-leading programs is to pay attention to the science involved in actually building the certification exams and then building the training to support the certifications that you're looking for people to achieve. So one of the first things I did was reach out to Alpine Testing Solutions, which is a company that we used at VMware and also at Nutanix. They're an industry-leading psychometric house, if you will. So there's this whole science called psychometrics, and it's a scientific discipline that's really concerned with the construction of assessment tools, exams, measurements, and so on. And using the science to actually build the certification programs helps you really focus in on exactly what it is you need the people who are doing particular jobs to know, what skills they need to have, and then allows you to effectively assess those skills and give them certification so that when someone achieves a certification, for example, a Veeam certification, and they're going to be a pre-sales person or a post-sales technical person, whatever the role is, that you can say if they've passed this certification, they definitely have the skills and definitely have all the knowledge they need to be successful in that job role. So the first step is always applying the science and aligning the certifications, to particular job roles that are out there in the ecosystem. People need to be really good at to be successful. And then you align the trainings to get people to the levels and make sure that you're actually providing the supports and so on as they gain the skills and as they gain knowledge, so you can certify them. So that's really what we did, and we spent most of 2023 doing that and aligning the programs to the science and making sure that we had everything out there that was necessary for our partners and our customers to be successful.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but the VMCE program that we launched this year was kind of a hybrid of the way we used to do things plus the way we want to do things going forward, right? So
Yeah,
next version will probably be fully in the model you just discussed.
yeah, absolutely. And all of these certification programs, what a lot of people don't understand necessarily, is that you have a program, like the VMCE program. That's sort of the flagship program that Veeam has out there, the Veeam Certified Engineer. So it has to do double duty, meaning there are partners, practitioners, people who are on the solution design and delivery side, right? They build the solutions, deliver them, and so on for the customers. There are also customer end users who are looking to gain skills to operate those solutions. So these programs do double duty. We train our partners on them on the practitioner side. We train our end users on them on the consumer, the user side, and finding that balance where it's an effective program for the practitioner, technical enablement and education program for the practitioner, and also very useful for the people who are running these solutions in production. That's another thing that we did as well. So evolving the BMCE program so that it's effective in both of those domains is really the other thing that we did. So we were really heavily partner biased, I would say, in the program previously. So one of the things that we've done is we've added other things to it to make it effective for both of those audiences, because you get an opportunity really to build one program. It's an economics thing, right? And you want to
Yeah,
make sure that you're able to
you'd
cover
love to have two tracks, one for partners and one for end users, but yeah, that's it's asking a
very
lot.
yeah very few organizations have been able had the luxury to do that. So you gain a reputation with a program, and it generally serves both of those audiences, the practitioners and the end users. And we just we've been making sure that we're paying more attention to efficacy for the customer end user. So that's
Well, I
another.
think it's interesting too, as you know, and I've been involved in the exam component of the VMCE for a few years now, and kind of to the side for the VMCA. But I've seen the evolution of the VMCA to be a very useful partner tool. Instead of just a few years ago, it was very difficult exam. So it was kind of like way above what the VMCE was. Um, what are your thoughts? I'm starting to see those more as parallel tracks, that the VMCA should be something that the partners should really be taking a look at moving forward, because they use, unless they're the day-to-day operations folks at the partner, if they're the pre-sales engineers, they're using a lot more of those skills that are covered in a VMCA type course than they are probably the ones in the VMCE. They need to understand what's in the VMCE, but those other skills are really what they're using day to day.
Sure. I mean, there's the technical foundational part of it, right? Which is, do I understand how the technology works? Can I get into, all the bit level stuff with the technology, and really, really, be able to turn that inside out and understand every aspect of how the technology functions. That's important. And the foundational programs, we want to teach that kind of stuff at the VMCE level. Here's the product, here's what it does, and here's exactly how all the features and functionality impact usage and so on. Then above that is this idea of an architect, right? Someone who can come in and actually design a solution for a particular set of business goals that a customer has. So, the foundational stuff, you definitely have to know that, because you have to apply the Veeam solution, you have to know the technology. But then there's this whole science of, how do I actually do solution design and delivery? So there's all kinds of frameworks out there. There's Zachman, there's TOGAF, there's all these frameworks that really teach you a fundamental set of skills. And you can break them down pretty simply. It's basically, how do I do discovery with a customer? How do I sit down and ask intelligent questions so I know exactly what business problems I'm trying to solve with the technology? Because it's going to be unique for every customer. No two customers are exactly the same. No two use cases are exactly the same. They can be similar, but they're not exactly. So, teach a practitioner how to do the discovery part, right? And then how to actually build out a framework where they plug the technology in to solve the business problem, then how do they have those discussions with the customers? How do they do the implementation, validation, all these different things? That's like the goal of a VMCA program. So that's really the money skill, if you will, for a partner, right? Is can I do the solution design and delivery consistently, effectively, and successfully every time? So you need a process, you need a framework for that. And that's the kind of stuff that you teach in a program like VMCA. So yeah, I agree. I mean, the foundational technical knowledge, we deliver that, and then after that, we deliver the framework for success with solution design and delivery, and that's the role of VMCA.
Yeah, I've become a real fan of the VMCA, and I know that the next version of that is being worked on. And from what I understand, it's not going to stray too far from what we've had in the current version. Um, I wish it more. I've tried to get more people involved in it, but they still go to VMCE. But we'll get them along there. Something interesting that happened this year, in addition to doing everything that we've talked about, is we went and created, and we're in the process of, because it's not officially released yet, an on-demand course is being developed. And what were the thoughts and the process there? Because this is something totally different when it comes to our certification program. We've had on-demand learning for individual things or smaller things, or for example, our VMSP and VMTSP, but never for the full VMCE class. So what do we have there?
Yeah, so the pressure to have self-paced courses is always out there anytime you're trying to do enablement at scale, especially for partners who are in the field having to actually, that's their bread and butter, right? It is how much time they spend in the field with customers, their billable hours, and so on. So, Veeam has always had this instructor-led model for actually teaching the VMCE course. So, it's 3 days out of field, and the travel costs if people actually go into a physical location, and the expense and so on around instructor-led training has always, led to requests or asks, especially from the partner community, for self-paced training. It's a very large course to do self-paced, and a lot of times, the thing that really holds you back from doing self-paced stuff around serious technical enablement is the lack of an ability to have hands-on labs as part of the course. So instructor-led training, with hands-on labs and an instructor that are facilitated, it's always been sort of the gold standard of knowledge transfer, right, of education. So the challenge was really, we want to listen to our partners and have self-paced options available. It's just, how do we get the same goodness that you'd get in an instructor-led environment, very deep dives into things with the opportunity to apply hands-on, to reinforce with hands-on. How do we do that? Well, we piloted a course that we built this last October, where we had labs built into the self-paced environment. And we spent a lot of time on the curriculum design, making sure that you were getting the same quality of instruction and the same level of engagement with the product that you get in an instructor-led training environment. And the pilot went really, really well. The CSAT scores were very high. Everyone really liked the content, and people have had very good success so far passing the VMCE exam, which is, sort of the measurement. How effective is it, or is it really preparing people to take the assessment that you've built? So, that's all gone absolutely great. And we're planning on rolling that out in Q1. So there will be an option alongside the ILT of this self-paced course. So success with that is making us think, for the future, should we be putting out a lot more of these high quality, engaging self-paced trainings for other things that we're trying to do? And the answer is yes. There's a lot of advantages to it. Like we said, it's the economics of time out of field and so on for practitioners. That's one thing we want to address. The other thing, of course, is the cost. Can you actually deliver these at a cost that's better for the end user and also for partners than we can offer with instructor-led training, right? So, and then scalability is another big thing. We can put many, many thousands of people through these self-paced trainings very easily. It's very, very, very scalable as demand scales up. So all these things make it attractive. So we are going to go ahead, and all of the things that we're planning on doing for the future, adding to the instructional catalog, the education catalog, there are going to be self-paced options for those trainings.
I personally think it's great because that's, as somebody who talks to partners all day, every day, that's the first thing I hear is that it's not just the cost of the class, it's the cost of the resource out of the field, it's the cost of the time to study. Anything you can do to alleviate that is going to make it easier for a partner to swallow. So, and I agree. The folks I talked to, and I actually ran through the class as well. I was really pleased with it. I think it's going to have a potential of getting us more certifications done in a rapid amount of time as opposed to, and nothing against the instructor led, because I love the instructor led. I've sat through many of those too, but there's only so many instructors. You can only have as many classes as there are instructors if they're holding nothing but Veeam. I know those folks have to do multiple different topics beyond Veeam. So I think that we're going to be able to really flood the market with that. And again, I think because of what's coming up in 2024, we just released 23H2/12.1. There's a potential, I think, to rapidly put things out in the on-demand version for additional training, either for supplemental for like a 12.1 or an orchestrator or 365, or pick your favorite Veeam product. And I think that there's an easier way to put those out there. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that I think anytime you can do the many to one, the massive multi-user environment, I think it's better.
Yeah, funny you should mention that because there's a couple other things at play here too, which kind of make it necessary for us to expand these education offerings. And you touched on it when you said Veeam 1 and VRO and 23H2 and 12.1, that big release that Veeam just dropped. So one thing that an observation I'll make about the programs that Veeam has had out there, the education enablement programs, have been really focused on backup and replication. So that's been the Veeam thing from day one, right? And that's really been the product that really has the traction in the ecosystem and the one that everybody knows. But as you know, and as our customers know and partners know, the platform that we're putting out there that we've just released is much more than just backup and replication. So we need to train people on the instrumentation side of it, on monitoring, for example, and management, and also absolutely on automation. So large companies, especially enterprise companies, which is one of the major targets for Veeam, going forward, they have these infrastructures where if we're going to be offering surety against ransomware attacks, recoverability against all the things that can happen to your infrastructure now, we have to have more than just the backup and replication function down. We have to be able to monitor, we have to be able to do analytics, and we have to have automated recovery in there if we're going to get these near zero RPO, RTO environments protected the way we want to do with the Veeam product. So if we have to go beyond backup and replication and what's traditionally taught in VMCE, we have to greatly expand the curriculum. So we need to teach people not only the B&R product, but all three products in the Veeam data platform. We also have to teach things that we haven't taught before, which are, hey, how do I fit into a security framework? How does the Veeam product enhance availability and manageability and performance, recoverability, security, and scalability, the things that we're looking at, and teach things like, okay, here's how I fit into a security framework like NIST, for example. So we roll these things up into a much bigger curriculum. We have to have more seat time, more opportunity to teach people. Again, that just really amplifies the need to not take someone out of field for like a 5, 6, 7-day training course and offer this stuff, via self-paced. So that's definitely something that we need to do. That's definitely in the cards for what's coming up after this release of 23H2. And we're going to be doing something called the Veeam Data Platform Security Expert Curriculum, which is all of the things that I just talked about, right? Builds on the foundational knowledge that you get through VMCE and B&R, adds Veeam 1, adds VRO, adds the security framework things and all of the other things that you need to know if you're going to be enhancing the security posture of an enterprise using Veeam. So that's definitely coming. That's definitely self-paced. That's something we can look forward to piloting in Q1.
Yeah, that's exciting. I saw the slide with all the forthcoming badges on it when I was at the Veeam 100 Summit, and people were excited about it because there were things, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but specific tracks too. It's not only just like the traditional one we have, but now looking at VCSP, looking at the other products. It was a lot of options. It was too funny. One person in the room looked at it and goes, do you really expect us to get all these badges? How are we going to ever maintain all these? And somebody just goes, nobody said you had to get them all, which is true. Pick the track that makes the most sense to you. Did everybody, when Microsoft came out with like 10 different flavors of the MCSE back in the day, did everybody go out and get all of them? No, you went and got the one that made the most sense for the role you were in.
Yeah, and Veeam, Veeam has multiple products, already has multiple competencies in place for partners that they can earn, right? And there's really, 6 separate tracks if you look at it already. There's the BNR track, there's the security ransomware disaster recovery track, which is the full Veeam data platform. We've got public cloud protection, we've got protection for Microsoft 365 and container protection as well, for our custom products. So there are a lot of different what I would call learning journeys or learning paths that partners and customers can take. And we'll just continue to up the quality and increase the depth of the technical skills that we're imparting through these programs as time goes on. So you will see additional versions of, engineer level, VMCE level certifications from Veeam to cover, all of these different tracks and the different product sets that people are using. So you can look forward.
I love that as the partner guy, because if there's one thing that's always true, it's that partners won't sell what they're not comfortable with, and they don't have as much experience with things like Orchestrator and Veeam One. And heck, there's places, I know many places where they've sold Veeam One and it's not really used because they didn't really know how to describe it and implement it for people. So having that kind of training is only going to help the customer get what they need, the partners sell more to those customers, and Veeam to get what we want. And that's the complete solution out there, because we hear so many times, well, Veeam doesn't do this. Well, it's more like you don't understand what we actually do. So you're seeing holes where there aren't holes because there's holes in your education. And it sounds like 2024 is going to be the year of filling the holes in the education.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, what we want to have as a reputation at Veeam, and especially on the enablement and education and certification side, is we want to have the reputation where you consume the programs and you walk away from those with a usable toolbox of skills that helps you solve customer problems and make money doing it, right? Which is the whole goal. We never want to have box check, type of programs where I'm just doing this to transact business with Veeam, and I'm not really adding to my skill set, because if you're not adding to partner skill sets and customer skill sets, then there really isn't an incentive for them to engage with you and learn these things and fill those holes, right? But if it's profitable to do so, then people will do it. And that's the measurement that I want to use for these programs is, are people leaving these programs and being successful in the business that they're in, be it a practitioner side or being as an end user administrator for one of these environments. If the answer is yes, it will take off. So we will make the answer yes. That's my goal.
Well, and that makes the most sense, because I deal with frontline pre-sales folks, operations folks at partners, and also the management. And what we found is the end user, the end person, the SE is interested in getting the certs done, but until it's a priority for the leadership, either the sales leadership or the technical leadership, it doesn't get done. And showing them that path of how, path to profitability through that education suddenly makes it a priority. That's one of the biggest battles we always have, is like, well, what's this going to turn into for me? Is it going to change anything we're doing? In the past, that's not always the case. It's kind of like you're just checking a partnership compliance box. But if we can start showing them a value, that's a totally different story then.
Yeah, I mean, and there's knock-on benefits to that too. So you get people, very, very strong technicians doing good solution design and delivery, handling large products, at scale for enterprise customers, and you get that record of success. And a partner with those credentials then becomes someone who a customer looks at and says, I need to do this. There's risk involved for me if I, for example, am taken down by a ransomware attack or something. And so I want to go with someone who has the credentials and the reputation for success with this. And it's much less risky for me to go with Veeam, because the Veeam practitioners have a track record, and I know they're a known quantity through these certification programs. I know that that's a badge that says they'll succeed. That becomes a huge benefit to not only the customer, because they have that surety and the confidence, but also to the partner, because that's a skill that's in demand, right? Is I don't mess these things up because I am, VMCA, or I have my VMCE. That badge of warranty, if you will, is something that's hugely valuable. And so that's the goal. We want to accomplish that for these programs, and you only do it through quality, and you only do it through having a good tool set that you're giving these people to be successful with. So that's where we want to go. That's the goal.
So off the cuff question that you may not have the stats for in front of you, but I'm just curious. It's popped into my head. So we launched the 2023 V12 exam just a few months ago. What kind of success rate are you seeing on that exam so far?
Okay. So I don't have the stats in front of me for the pass fail scores, but there's one interesting statistic I can throw out for you right now, and that is all the people that took the self-paced training, because that's something that I've been really focused on, has been really near and dear to my heart, who have sat the exam, have passed it. We have had nobody sit the exam and fail who's gone through the self-paced training so far. So I look at that and I say that's a really interesting correlation, because, as you know, people have had the VMCE exam has had a reputation for being very difficult for people to pass. Question I always ask is it the preparatory training that's making it difficult, or is it the exam itself? The bar is set at a point that's just too difficult for people to pass. So I think, we're seeing in that correlation two things. One, the training's really good. And two, we did a really good job with the psychometric side of things in constructing the assessment for the 12-1 exam, for the new version 12 exam. Sorry, excuse me, I should say. 12.1 is coming out at the end of Q1. But for the V12 exam, so the delta between 11 and 12, I'm confident that we are in a much better position to be fairly assessing people's skills with the version 12 exam. And I know we're on target with the training that we built for it, at least the self-paced training is.
That's good. So as somebody who helped to write the update questions for it,
Yeah.
the biggest thing I thought was tremendous when it came down to really scrutinizing questions as folks were writing them and we were reviewing them was that minimally qualified candidate.
Yes.
I would, if somebody brought up a question, I'd be like, is this something that a minimally qualified candidate either A, could figure out between the class and their prior experience, or B, needs to know to be a successful Veeam engineer based on what we're doing here? And there were a lot of questions that were massively altered because of that strong definition that we could keep going back to. And I think that has definitely helped. There's always been a history of, if it wasn't challenging to Veemers, it wasn't a good test. Well, who should know the product better than anybody except the people that live and breathe it 24/7 that work at the company, right? If your email address is veeam.com, you ought to know it inside and out, and the test should be easy for you. So that was one of the problems we had in the past. I think we got through that. We've been working through it in the last several versions. I felt like on this version, we got further along with it.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, what you're talking about is the application of psychometric science, right? So, you sat down with the experts, and some of these people have a PhD in psychometrics, and so they know, all right, here's the target. The minimally qualified candidate, as you said, is a person who meets all of the criteria for success as you've defined in that particular job role. So you have a model, and you make sure that you adhere very closely to the model so the assessment's fair. It's very easy to wander out of the what is fair zone if you're not using that framework and if you're not applying the science very rigorously during the development process for the certification exam, right? So that just shows that when we apply the science, we get the result, and it shows up, in the success rates with the exam. So, we'll continue to apply that science, and we'll continue to teach people like you, inside Veeam, the ins and outs of psychometrics and how we actually use that in these programs to keep the assessments fair and to keep the training aligned with the goals for the skills we're trying to impart, right? So, we do that. We do our job. We're a technology company. We should be all about the science. As long as we stick to that, we're good to go.
I love that. And I love being part of the process because I do get a lot of feedback from partners. My other teammates within Veeam get a lot of feedback. So I bring all that to set, and it really helps us. I think we've begun to write much better exams when they're not written in a bubble. when we bring in that external feedback. I'm not saying bring in maybe I'm saying I know other companies bring in external people to write exam questions. Maybe that's something we do someday. I don't know. But as long as we're keeping those folks in mind as we do it, we're going to have a better product, and it's already showing.
Yeah, one of the things that we've done in other programs that I've worked on, at VMware and Nutanix, for sure, was over time you do bring in people who are not Veeam employees to actually do your exam development, partners and even customers, because having that sort of broad subject matter expert pool helps you, just with different perspectives, it can speed up your exam development. And as these programs grow, when you're trying to support, 6, 8, 10, 12 different certification programs, having that large pool of subject matter experts is critical. You can't always go back to the same people, inside Veeam. They'd just be doing that 24/7, right? So you have to have that larger pool. But you bring them in, and as you bring them in, you train them on the science so that they're experts at doing this. Not just experts with the technology, but also experts with the enablement and assessment process. So, we will do that. And if you're a partner out there and you're listening to this and you're like, wow, I'd really like to get involved in, more involved in the enablement stuff and in the assessments, building these assessment programs and these certification exams, good news for you is that, there will be an avenue for you to participate in that in future.
Yeah, and it's great. We have great programs that probably have valuable resources for us already built. The Veeam Vanguards, the Legends, the MVPs within Veeam. We should have no problems finding candidates to help when the time comes. So I'm excited about that. If there's one thing I think Veeam has, it's a great community out there that we can pull from.
Yeah, we'll continue, to build these programs out, but also build them up. And one of the goals that I have for is absolutely establishing, an X-level architect certification that's equivalent to, VMware's VCDX in terms of the breadth and depth of knowledge that you need, and also the impact in the ecosystem, right? Where you can sit down in front of a G2000 customer, and find your feet and do a solution design for them around the Veeam product. So, that's something we're going to want to do. And that's something where it's really critical to have engagement in developing those programs from your channel partners and also from your customers. So, and those are very, those kinds of programs, they carry a lot of weight, and they tend to be sort of, crowning achievements for people who are involved in the Veeam ecosystem. It would be for them. So having that kind of traction and getting people involved in those kinds of program builds, super critical. It's also a lot of fun, and the results are really gratifying. People love to get those kinds of certifications, the CCIE level, VCDX level, MPX level certs. And, if you're in the first 5 or 10, people really, really like
low numbers.
So, we'd like to start getting people involved in that. In 2024, we're going to kick off the program to develop, our X level certification. So that's something that will be out there for the community as well.
That's awesome. It's quite a vision that's out there now. I love it's not just iterate on the VMCE, iterate on the VMCA. There's a long-term vision of what wants to be done, and it's way beyond anything we've ever done before. But it definitely, we're not just VBR anymore, so it makes sense. I love the vision that's been put together. I think partners are going to be excited about it. So, we'll see what the future holds, right?
Yeah, well, Veeam is the leader, right? And leaders lead. So, we're going to keep growing and we're going to keep going. And we have a vision and we're going to execute on it. And hopefully everybody's going to come along with us for the ride. And I think it's going to be a great one.
I do too. And Mark, I just want to say thank you for this time today. We're recording this as we're heading into the holiday season, so I know what everybody's time is like. So I appreciate you taking the time out to do this. I think this is super important information for partners and beyond. So this is something that actually the partners can listen to this. And there's nothing blocking an end user from listening to this podcast either, but share the information. Veeam education is going to skyrocket over the next year and years to come. Thank you again. I appreciate you taking the time.
Sure. Great talking to you, Eric, and happy holidays to everybody who's listening. And we'll look forward to seeing you in the new year.
This has been Veeam Partner Perspectives with Eric Doherty. Thank you for listening.